Growing up with narcissistic parents doesn't just shape your childhood. It quietly programs your entire personality without you noticing. Most people don't recognize these patterns until years later when they're deep into adulthood, wondering why relationships feel impossible, why compliments feel like traps, why they can read a room better than anyone but can't feel safe in it. Today we're breaking down 3 unusual traits almost every child of narcissistic parents carries. And if you recognize yourself here, understand this: these aren't flaws, they're survival adaptations. And they can be unlearned. Before we dive in, quick question. Can you tell someone's mood just by how they walk into a room? Yes or no in the comments. Your answer reveals more than you think. Psychology confirms it. Growing up with narcissistic parents doesn't just affect your childhood. It rewires how you perceive relationships, self-worth, and safety for decades. The strange part? Most people don't even notice these patterns until something breaks, a relationship ends, a panic attack hits. Or they finally ask, why do I always feel like I'm walking on eggshells? These aren't conscious choices. They're automatic programs installed during your most vulnerable developmental years. Your brain adapted to survive an unpredictable emotional environment. And those adaptations? They followed you into adulthood, affecting every relationship, every job, every moment of self-doubt. Here's trait 1. Hypervigilance to emotional cues. Children of narcissistic parents grow up constantly scanning for shifts in tone, mood, or facial expression. This isn't paranoia. It's a survival response to unpredictable caregiving. You learned early that even a small emotional change from a parent could lead to blame, punishment, or complete emotional withdrawal. So you became an expert. You memorized exactly how your parent walked into a room to know if it was safe to speak. You studied their face, their breathing, the way they held their shoulders. Psychology calls this hypervigilance, a state of heightened threat detection that never turns off. As adults, this shows up everywhere. Overthinking someone's text message, analyzing their tone for hidden meanings, assuming silence equals anger. You read every micro-expression, every pause, every shift in energy. You walk into a room and immediately scan. Who's upset? What's the tension? What do I need to do to keep this safe? It's exhausting. And the worst part? You do it automatically. You can't turn it off because your nervous system still believes survival depends on it. Trait 2. Difficulty accepting compliments. People raised by narcissistic parents struggle to feel genuinely worthy because praise was rare, conditional, or used as manipulation. Psychology links this to chronic self-doubt formed in environments where approval was never consistent. Here's a real example. You did well in school, but instead of celebration, you got, well, your brother did better, or don't get cocky. Or worst of all, praise used as leverage later. After everything I've done for you, supporting you, praising you, this is how you repay me? So praise became dangerous. It meant debt. It meant expectations. It meant it could be taken away at any moment. Today, when someone compliments you, your brain doesn't compute it as genuine. You brush it off, deflect, feel uncomfortable. You might even assume they want something. If you're recognizing yourself in these traits, hit that like button not for me, but as an acknowledgement. I see this pattern in myself. And subscribe because we're going deeper into childhood trauma patterns that most psychology content doesn't touch. Now let's talk about control. Trait 3. Intense need for control in relationships. Growing up, you had no control over emotional chaos, sudden outbursts, or constantly shifting rules. The goalposts moved daily. What was fine yesterday was unforgivable today. So to cope, you learned that control equals safety. Psychology describes this as a protective mechanism built from living in unstable environments. For example, as a child, you might have tried to keep everything perfect, your room spotless, your grades flawless, your behavior invisible, hoping that if you controlled enough variables, your parent wouldn't explode. In adulthood, this manifests as needing strict routines, wanting constant reassurance from partners, feeling intense anxiety when plans change. Even in healthy relationships, unpredictability feels like danger. Your partner being spontaneous doesn't feel fun, it feels threatening. Because your nervous system remembers, unpredictability meant pain. Here's the truth psychology wants you to understand. These traits don't mean you're broken. They mean you survived. Your brain did exactly what it needed to do to protect you in an environment that wasn't safe. Hypervigilance kept you from triggering outbursts. Rejecting compliments protected you from manipulation. Control gave you agency in chaos. These were adaptations, not defects. But here's what matters now. What saved you then is hurting you now. The hypervigilance that protected you from a volatile parent is now destroying relationships with people who aren't volatile. You survived. That's the miracle. But survival mode isn't the same as living. And you deserve to live, not just survive. So how do you heal? You start small. You don't need to fix everything at once. You need to interrupt the pattern just once. Then again, then again. Say no once a week, even to small things. Your brain needs to learn that no doesn't equal abandonment. Pause before apologizing. Notice how often you say sorry for things that aren't your fault, for existing, for having needs. Catch yourself, pause, and ask, did I actually do something wrong, or am I just trying to keep the peace? Notice your own needs before everyone else's. For 5 minutes a day, ask yourself, what do I actually want right now? Not what you should want, not what would make others happy. What do you want? This is radical for someone trained to erase themselves. You're not responsible for the emotional world you grew up in. That was never your fault. A child doesn't create their parents' narcissism, instability, or emotional unavailability. But you are responsible for the world you create now. That's both the burden and the freedom. You can choose different patterns. You can learn to feel safe in calm relationships. You can practice accepting compliments without suspicion. It won't feel natural at first. It might feel terrifying. But that terror is just your nervous system remembering the past, not predicting the future. The hardest part? You're not just healing yourself. You're breaking a cycle. You're choosing to create the emotional safety you never received. And that, despite everything, is incredibly powerful. These 3 traits, hypervigilance, rejecting compliments, and needing control, aren't personality flaws. They're echoes of survival. But you don't have to live in survival mode forever. Healing starts with recognition, then small deliberate interruptions to old patterns. Tell me in the comments, which trait hit you the hardest? And remember, if you're recognizing these patterns, you're already doing the hardest part. You're seeing them. And what you can see, you can change. This is educational content about psychological patterns, not a substitute for professional mental health treatment. If you're struggling with trauma from narcissistic parenting, please seek support from a licensed therapist specializing in trauma.